Oh, look at me, I'm the newest handheld in town. I wonder if people will like me. Technically, I'm the whole package. I can play anything from PS2 all the way to NES. What will people think? Chunky, big boned, chubby. Look at this freaking monster, it's huge. That's what she said. But look at him, this is literally the biggest vertical handheld that I've personally ever seen, and most probably you as well. This thing is enormous. Just look at it compared to the tiny Mio Mini. It's downright comical how big it is. And I'll be honest with you, my dear nerds, at first I was convinced I wouldn't like it. When LittenXT contacted me and asked, hey Vlad, do you want to review this thing? I was like, yeah, sure, kind of, oh, okay, I guess, because I didn't expect it to be anything out of the ordinary. I expected it to be, quite frankly, an average vertical handheld with the pain in the backside of having Android on it. But my nerds, I was so freaking wrong, because not only do I love this thing, I low-key think that this handheld alone, this tiny, this big flipping mother flipper, this will change the vertical handheld landscape forever. You see, this thing is constructed just right. You can technically put Android out of the picture, shove it way in the background, and just remain with what's essentially an all-in-one handheld that plays everything. Every freaking thing, from PS2 to even a bit of Nintendo Switch to GBA, NES, all of the 8 and 16-bit handhelds. But the magic of this, the magic is that all of these are now in one single handheld. They are one simple package. You can take this on the train, you can take this on the commute, and there's a certain peace for OCD people knowing that they have their entire collection, everything that they freaking want to play, anything in just one tiny handheld. They don't need to carry more of them. In fact, the only advantage of other handhelds, I would argue, at this point, is the fact that they come in different sizes, shapes, and form factors. Like the Mio Mini. The Mio Mini will still be very, very relevant in the future, solely because of its size. But this freaking chungus, holy poop on a stick, my dear nerds. This is, quite frankly, a shocker in the industry. I didn't expect to like this. I didn't expect to like this at all, because it represents almost everything that I personally dislike in retro handhelds. You see, I'm not ashamed to admit it that ever since I started this channel, I sort of turned into a horizontal handheld fanboy versus the normal vertical fan that I was before. My first handheld was this guy's bigger brother, the Mio Mini Plus, and I loved that thing. Horizontal handhelds appeared unnatural to me after that, and by consequence, vertical handhelds sort of became, yeah, they're nice because of the nostalgia factor, because the freaking Game Boy, but at the same time, horizontal handhelds were the way of comfort, the way of ergonomics, the way to play things. And then this monstrosity came, and monstrosity is the perfect word for it, my dear fleshy carbon-based life forms. It's big, and I don't like big handhelds. It's chunky. You know, it has little butt cheeks over here. I do not like something that's unnecessarily huge, and I do not like something that's basically not pocketable at all. You can't pocket this, it's almost as big as half my face. It has sticks that protrude way, way further away from the shell than I normally would like. So what gives? What makes me like this thing to the extent where I'm borderline rabid over it? I freaking love it. Well, if you want to find out, you better watch the video. No, but I'm gonna tell you the whole thing. I'm gonna spill the whole tea at the beginning, so don't worry, I'm not that kind of YouTuber. I stood for days on end contemplating over this thing before I made this video. What makes me swear by it? And it's simple. It's the fact that it's so close, so freaking close from an RG406V from Anbernic, aka a horizontal 4-inch 4x3 handheld, which I've been pleading for them to make. But in a way, I'm glad that they released this first, because this thing genuinely put a spark back in my vertical handheld love. And I realized I made the cut and now I have headphones on my head. Before I continue, I want to say that this unit, this big freaking unit, was sent to me by the nice guys at LitNXT. And I'm convinced you know of LitNXT by now, especially if you've been following this channel, because I talk about them a lot. They are an awesome, awesome handheld store, which I couldn't recommend enough. They have quite good prices, especially if you use VladNerd12, which is a coupon code in my video description. But this is very important. I want you to know that this video is not sponsored in any way. My thoughts are my own. There's no editorial preview, there's no nothing. LitNXT is seeing this video at the same time as you. So anyway, I need to add a bit of structure to this video because I've been borderline ranting like a crazy person that I like this, and you basically know what this video is all about. It's me simping for this thing. But for the sake of organization, let's do an unboxing. Unboxing. I already unboxed it. It's obvious, but still. I'm gonna do this really fast because I'm convinced there's nothing really truly exciting about Anbernic unboxings. It's literally a white freaking box. It's as generic as you can. GLaDOS from Portal would have loved this. But anyway, let's get this thing off. And we have our famous foam little thing. We have a bag, which is quite nice. We must throw it away as soon as possible. We have the handheld itself, which has a totally clean screen. This is one of those situations where I hope my video quality sucks and you don't see the smudges on the screen. Let's put this aside. There's a mold here for the butt cheeks of the handheld, which is nice. And we get a charging cable. As I always tell you, we have to put this aside. You don't know when you need an extra USB-C cable, and no, I don't care if you have a million of them. You might need 1,000,001 cables. There will be a time where this guy's time will come and it will be super useful for you. We have wet wipes to apply the screen protector. Oh my god, because this is one of the more higher end, technically speaking, Android handhelds from Anbernic. We get a screen protector this time, which I didn't bother putting it on. I might put it, but I'll see. And of course a tiny little pamphlet, which is almost identical to all of the other tiny little pamphlets from Anbernic, but these are useful. Come on, focus, focus, you little bastard. These are useful to see what each individual button does. Come on. Yes, okay. You get the idea. I don't need to make a long segment on this. This is as generic as it gets. Blech. Anyway, YouTube magic. You know, I just want to continue with a slight size comparison. Look at how comically different these two are. You can't make this up. This is so tiny and pocketable and cute, and you just want to hug it and tell it to grow up and get a job soon and start paying rent. And this one, this is the kind of handheld which you'd be afraid to comment back because, you know, it's probably doing boxing or something, and plus it's obviously been going to the gym. Look at these little chunky backside jewels. Yeah. I cracked myself. Anyway, continuing with this, what makes this handheld exceptional is two things. One, it has the same guts as the RG Cube and the RG556, which means that it can do up to PS2 and even some Switch. Now, I know why other people don't cover this because they're not stupid like me, but I will say this: you can play things on the Switch, on this thing, which I never thought would be possible, like Portal, even Portal 2, not only Portal 1, and Broforce, which is only one of the best games ever. But the reason, the sole reason why I love this thing to the extent where honestly I can't contain myself, this is not objective, this is not an objective video. I love almost as much as I loved the original Mio Mini, and this is because it feels like it's vertically integrated. Let me explain what this means. You see, the biggest pain in the backside with Android handhelds was that you always felt that they were Android devices that cosplayed as handhelds. And that sucked. That was something that I'm convinced bothered everyone. We want powerful handhelds, and unfortunately for us, most of the time having Android on them is a necessary evil because Android is a very good emulation platform. But the RG406V manages to hide the Android part so freaking beautifully that no other Anbernic Linux handhelds like the RG Cube can do that. Look, for example, you might see that I have both launchers here, and that's all fine and dandy, but on the RG Cube you can't set the default launcher to be whatever you want, be it Emulation Station or Beacon Launcher, which I have here. You simply can't, because most often, after 20 minutes or so, the device itself overrides that and puts the stock Android launcher back as the main launcher. And you can quickly and accidentally break that console handheld immersion whenever you're kicked back into the Android interface. But the RG406V is different because Android actually has a slightly different approach to how it handles default launchers here. And it boils down to one stupid setting which the RG406V has and the Cube doesn't, and I pray that the future RG406M or P has. The RG406V has this menu here, handheld game console settings, which is absent on the Cube. And here, let me just zoom this a bit, you can select quick launcher and then select the actual launcher that you want. And now whenever you press this button, which would toggle you in and out of game mode, you wouldn't be overwritten by that annoying RG launcher that comes pre-installed with these Android Anbernic handhelds. And the other cool thing is that through this major navigation button that Android has, you can't actually access the most recent apps that you have, because you shouldn't access the most recent apps that you opened. I'm actually a contrarian to this. Most apps that you use, they will be loaded into RAM, and when you run out of RAM, they will be discarded anyway, so you might as well just open them from the home screen, whichever that one might be, and not complicate yourself. You know, it's a redundant menu that's, in my opinion, left over from the KitKat times, which shouldn't even exist anymore, and the RG406V made it beautiful. If I double tap, I go into my last app. Let's say I'm playing Blood Omen 1, right? Actually, wait a second. Perfect. And I'm like, oh my god, I have to go eat, or my girlfriend is calling me, or the landlord is throwing me out. And I can exit whenever I want through RetroArch shortcuts, and it saves my progress, and if I go back, I'll be right where I left off. This is some Mio Mini level magic, and we have RetroArch to thank for that. But again, this is a hole-in-one package. One can do PS2 on this, PlayStation at 2 or more X internal resolution, and you don't even need more than that, because then you would be limited by the display panel here. I won't even get started on the fact that the battery seems to freaking last forever, and that's a good thing. And trust me, when you manage to actually shove all of your desired consoles, including the more modern one like PS2, into one vertical form factor, which doesn't feel awkward as heck when you play something like NES on it. I've always had a problem with this. Playing very old consoles like NES and Game Boy and all of those consoles from that similar timeline of 8 and 16-bit consoles felt weird to me on a horizontal handheld. I associate horizontal handhelds with PSP and with more modern systems, and the traditional systems, in my opinion, well, they simply have their place, you guessed it, in a vertical form factor. But this makes you feel whenever you play games from the company that doesn't deserve a mention, or from Sega or from Sony, whenever you play those games, it feels at home here. And not only do old games feel at home, but for some reason, even modern ones, because the RG406V has a few modern touches. Look, I'm gonna complain about this, even though a lot of you fine nerds will ask me what the hell is wrong with me. But you see these elongated sticks. The reason why they're elongated is because they have a huge travel. You actually, come on, focus. You actually have a lot of control here. They are not squished, they are not symbolic. You can really go to town on these. They give you a huge range of motion. And you can do things like, look at my sticks moving. Do you see that light? That backlight following me around. Well, this is the chase animation, which I personally outright love. But you can also keep it as solid white if you want, and that can also work. But the chasing animation, to my eyes at least, is, well, subtle, and it's pretty, it's elegant, it's what one would ideally want from such a handheld. And I don't want this video to appear like an ad. It's just excitement, my dear nerds. It's unbridled excitement, like in the early days of this retro emulation device niche, when we would jump up and down and we only had Onion OS and Mio Mini and Mio Mini Plus. That kind of excitement is what I feel with this. I might be crazy for saying this, but you know how you can tell that a YouTuber isn't full of himself? Look at this home screen. Look at... Okay, it's Contra, it's okay. Look at how many handhelds I organized there. Look at how much work I put into setting this up. That's how you know that somebody on YouTube actually loves the thing that they are reviewing. It all stems to how much time they put outside of the video itself to configure this and to enjoy it by himself. So yeah, this is a strong, an immense recommendation from me. I don't think you can go wrong with this handheld. Sure, it's not pocketable. I'm gonna say it outright. This is the least pocketable freaking monster that you can even try to put in your pocket. I'm not even... The thought didn't even cross my mind to carry this in my pocket. This is a backpack thing. This is what you whip out when you're with your girlfriend in the train or in the bus, and she knows you well enough to know that you're not cool, so you whip out your handheld and you enjoy it in front of her. And for 3 hours or whatever long bus or train ride you have, you would enjoy the heck out of this. This is how I feel about this. I know it's mostly praise. Trust me, I don't feel good about it either. I feel squishy and dirty outright just praising this thing. I'm simping for this thing, that's what I'm doing. But it's just good. There's no other way around it. So, I genuinely encourage you, my dear nerd. There's links for this in the description. If you want, you can get it from LitNXT. I trust that store and I recommend them. There's a Vlad Nerd coupon there as well. But if you don't want to buy it from LitNXT, buy it from wherever else. You will freaking enjoy this. Anbernic, I made so much fun of you in other videos, but I doubted this handheld. I genuinely entered with skepticism when I made first contact with this thing. And I am here saying that I am eating my words. This is perhaps one of the best handhelds out there. Truly, if you buy this, a lot of people can simply stop buying other handhelds. Well, of course you're gonna buy other handhelds. There's the Retroid Pocket 5 coming up, and you know that reminds you of a Vita. You know that's how they got you. it looks like a modern Vita that can emulate everything. But for most other things, you will probably be very satisfied with this. It will, at the very least, scratch that itch that, oh my god, I must have every handheld, I must buy all of them kind of itch. You will feel satiated for a while, and isn't that what retro retro gaming is all about? Anyway, my dear nerds, I've been yammering for a long time and I am trying to push this video quite fast. I'll have a lot to edit. Let me know what you think. If you like what I do here, consider subscribing. I would love you forever. I want us to grow this thing together. So if you're a good quality okay nerd, which deserves love and affection and puppies, then please subscribe. And if you like what I do here, also consider supporting me directly. You don't have to, but it would make my job of purchasing other handhelds easier. Part of the handhelds are actually bought by me. And yeah, that would help me make more videos. So if you like what I do here, you would also end up on this wall of fame with awesome people. These people are gods, okay? These are the people that actually stand by my side and help me a bit more directly, and I appreciate each and every one of them. But anyway, my dear nerds, this is all from me. I feel like I spoke a lot. I'm gonna make a follow-up video for the RG406V, which will be a guide with how I set it up. This handheld has so much potential when it comes to having a final setup for it. No meddling, set it up and forget it kind of potential. Something that reminded me of Onion OS. I'm truly, in case you didn't tell, truly excited by this mother flipper. But yeah, what else can I say? I guess I should cover some bad sides of it to appear objective. Okay, so backsides. The bezel is freaking huge around the display. I truly think Anbernic could have done this better. There's really no excuse, especially not for a handheld that doesn't cost under $100. I mean, objectively speaking, you know you don't have a leg to stand on when even the tiny Mio Mini has more of a bezel screen than your super expensive handheld. And as long as I'm comparing these two, just look at the buttons. Can you believe it that the Mio Mini has bigger ABXY buttons than the freaking RG406V? What did they do? Did they run out of space here? I really don't believe that they did. Again, look at how big this is. They had a ton of space. The Mio Mini didn't. What excuse do they have of not packing bigger buttons here? If the Mio Mini could, and look how small this is, why couldn't this one? And same goes for the D-pad. You see the differences in the D-pad? It's almost comical. It's... how should I put this? There's no perfect device out there. However, there are devices that come close to perfection. These, wait for it, these are two of the closest to perfection devices in my opinion. Actually, I want to be fair. These three are the most perfect, most close to perfection devices out there. In my humble opinion, there's no better middle ground than these three. These are in the elite league of handhelds, of vertical handhelds, and very few vertical handhelds are actually better than these three. And I know people tend to discard these two because they are old. They've been released a couple of years ago. But what if I told you that the experience for everything up to PS1 and below is still amazing on these? People tend to want what's the newest thing, but yeah, I also have a lot of love for these. I'm gonna make a video on the Mio Mini soon. I never actually had the first Mio Mini. I started my journey into retro handhelds with the Mio Mini Plus. But just to wrap up things, my dear nerds, hard recommendation. Seriously, this one is worth considering. I know a lot of times I promote not overly consuming, not being hedonistic, not buying every freaking handheld. Collecting e-waste is not really a thing worth collecting. But this time, I wouldn't say that this specific handheld is anywhere close to e-waste. In fact, this one might prevent you from buying many others in the future. Anyway, my dear nerds, I'm pretty close. This video will be close to 50 minutes. At this rate, I'll edit until I hate myself. So, I bid you farewell. Let me put our little lotion one last time. Bye, my dear nerds. Don't forget, I love you very much. I always will, and I always did, and this will never ever change. But you have to subscribe.